Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Edward Elgar Publishing Limited. It's a family firm of independent publishers. They produce some very high quality research materials for the academic legal world, and that's really where we are involved, and we look very much towards the new books they are publishing in particular areas. The book I'm looking at today is called the Research Handbook on International Law and Cyberspace, and it's an important area for a lot of reasons. You just have to see the news items over a relatively short period of time to see the big impact which is taking place with cyberspace itself, attacks on cyberspace, and the international law repercussions thereof. Now, the book, of course, is written with a view to the higher academic market, and it's a series of contributions. We'll look at the book in a minute. It's been edited by Nicholas Tsagourias and Russell Buchan, and there's an introduction by Michael Schmitt. And as I say, it's part of the Edward Elgar group of publications, and it's the Research Handbooks in International Law area. It's also available as an eBook and as an also on available electronically on the Elgaronline system, and there are references to that in the book. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I talked about this book, and for our review we've given the review a title, An International Law of Cyberspace, ? Questioning it. Here's some of the latest commentary and research, because at some stage we're going to have some agreement on what we're doing. I think we're a bit of a way off yet, but however, let's have a look at the book. It's a hardback. See, there's the front of it, there's the hardback, brown cover. There we go, you can see who the editors are, and it's the Research Handbooks. There's the spine, then there's a bit on the back. Just some general blurb about how to find the information. What we have got is a detailed index, which you can see there at the back again. And that index does go on for quite a long way, as you can see. So it's a thoughtful index. Then you've got the actual copy itself, the actual body copy. There are lots of footnotes at the bottom. There are there's a bit of paragraph numbering, but it's more in the, you can see the footnotes there. It's more in the way of various subheadings, so numbered subheadings through the various chapters. If we go to the front, you get a better idea of it. That's the first front page bit there. Then you can see the Research Handbook series, which is listed there. Then actually that's the book itself, the front page of that book, because there are a number of books in the series, of course, which are available. Then you've got details about the online side there, and then you've got the parts which make up the individual chapters. And you've got the names of the people who've written the individual chapters as well, the various parts. There are 5 parts in total, which you can see there. Then you've got the list of contributors. Quite a large number of people involved again. You can see, I can't go through all the names, but you can see a large number of people have contributed to this. So this is a dynamic and detailed publication. Do read the preface by Nicholas and Russell, dated October 2014. Then you've got some case law, international. You've got a whole range of different references as well in terms of the case law. There's a little bit from the United Kingdom national cases and the US cases. There's a lot of legislation, of course, because this is an international publication. Then after that you get to the introduction itself, written by Michael Schmitt, which is worth reading because it explains, he says, since the digital revolution, the exponential growth of information and communication technology has created a complex web of networked systems. That's what we call cyberspace, effectively, and then we've got to look at, from that, at where we're going. He says this is the new and vibrant environment which is now known as cyberspace. So there's a nice actual definition of it there. Then there's an overview of the chapters, and then it's run in. So they've tried very hard, the publishers and the editors, to produce something that's readable, because one of the problems with some of these books is they are very detailed. They're not the easiest books to read sometimes. I found this quite easy to read, but I found the subject interesting because it's of interest to us nationally and internationally, as the planet tends to get a bit smaller We all tend to get much more interlinked with what we're doing, especially in the business world, and that means that we have to look at the international law aspects of it. And it's an area which I think is very much avoided when it comes to some of the undergraduate studies, and is left more to the postgraduate guys. But the point is that, and I mean girls in that as well when I say guys, just in case there are any problems, that's a wider general view. But the point I'm making is that it would be nice to see a little bit more emphasis on international legal issues, perhaps in the undergraduate programs in the future. We're certainly getting much more of it in the United Kingdom because of the influence on European Union law specifically, but I think it's an area that's going to grow as the century unfolds. Now, this is what we say about the book. Widely regarded as an exciting new area of law, the aspects of international law pertaining to cyberspace, whilst not strictly speaking new, nonetheless constitute an evolving area of legal endeavour, and an interesting one actually for anyone involved in practice as I am. The central concern here is that the legalities of cyberspace and the internet have not yet been thrashed out internationally, and that therefore the possibility of a truly international consensus on internet use and abuse remains remote. Now, you can see from even that statement that it's causing a lot of concern, because whilst there's no agreement, we are still starting to have a lot of problems with people causing difficulty, or cyberspace attacks, whatever you want to call them. We are having a lot of problems which are beginning to develop. So it will at some stage need to, or lead towards some sort of agreement. However, I think that is a way off yet. So for international lawyers, somewhat confounded by the confusions and controversies linked to the establishment of the law of cyberspace, this book, we think, is an enlightening read, because it's actually looking and thinking about the issues in quite a broad way, and it's bringing together a lot of experts to give you opinions. It presents important research recently conducted in the form of 24 papers and articles by no less than 26 international contributors, all with impressive expertise in this field. And in the words of its editors, this book serves as a guide to academics, practitioners, researchers and students on the international law principles and rules that apply to cyberspace and to certain cyber activities. Now, the co-editor, Nicholas Tsagourias of the University of Sheffield, initially refers to the now outmoded assumption that cyberspace is, quote, a non-legal domain that should remain open, participatory and unfettered by legal regulations. Not necessarily a good idea in view of the internet's vulnerability to abuse, which we've seen in the month of August as I record this particular book review. Tsagourias then reiterates the much more current view that cyberspace is or should be subject to international law, which fortunately, he says, is not in dispute anymore. Well, that's a step forward, because again, we do have to have a consensus, and with like everything involved in international attempts to get agreement, it is really difficult to try to achieve any modicum of agreement in some areas. So at least we've got to make the steps forward, and I think the sooner the better. Can I then go on by saying that the handbook first turns its attention to the ways in which particular principles of international law apply in cyberspace in just about every conceivable area, from jurisdiction, for example, to intellectual property, IP, human rights, individual criminal responsibility, and so forth. The sections of the book which follow tackle such urgent issues as cyber attacks, cyber war and cyber security, and of course much more. Now, all of those would be of interest, I think, to a wide range of lawyers, because this is a new era for us, and we've got to be aware that there are a lot of people out there who know a great deal more than we do about these systems, but at the same time we've got to be aware of what is happening and be able to advise effectively to clients and be aware of course, what's happening. The book's a recent publication from Elgar, very much part of their research handbook series, and this one is part of the Handbooks on International Law series, and we think the book is a very effective tool for us. It's meticulously footnoted throughout, and it functions admirably as a launchpad into avenues of further research with extensive tables of cases and legislation, national and international, and a very helpful and detailed index at the back. The book therefore is a valuable resource for practitioners, policymakers and students alike, and indeed anyone concerned with the necessity of and the difficulties involved in arriving at some form of international consensus on the regulation of cyberspace. And the publication date is cited at 2015. So it's pretty new. I'm recording this in the summer of that year. There is the book again, hardback, and then there's the back cover. Runs to, it's about 500 pages, something like that. Yeah, it was just over 500 pages in fact. There's the index at the back again. Just opening it up in the middle. This is the international legal dimensions to cyberspace, cybercrime. Again, a lot of detail here. Eminent people writing on the issues, the international regime to fight cybercrime. It's in its infancy, a lot of this, I have to say, but we are looking at the moment to hope and see that we actually get a bit further. You'll be interested in this part 4, Cyber War and the Jus in Bello, distinctive ethical challenges to cyber weapons. There we go. So you see, this is being thought of now on a much bigger scale than before. Here we go, applying proportionality in attacks which employ cyber weapons. So we're getting very much of an international legal terminology coming in as well. And just at the beginning, do have a look. As I've mentioned earlier, the introduction at the beginning by Michael Schmitt is worth reading, because I think what it does is it puts in perspective what the book's about and where we're going. Because this is, I think, the start of some interesting developments, certainly in this decade, second decade of the 21st century. And we've got a long way to go, because at the moment, cyberspace, I think, it's fair to say a lot of it's in its infancy. But there will be some changes as time goes by. So I'd like to thank all concerned for an excellent publication and a good read as well. Bye bye for now. Bye.